everybody. Hello, and welcome back to From the Pitch to the Pros. My name is Ellie, and I'm accompanied by our friends and BP family members, Kaelon Fox and Sophia Braun. As you guys know, Kaelon and Sophia are two soccer pros who are here just to shed a little bit of wisdom on their respective journeys in the beautiful game. So today's topic is focused on the influence of mentors and role models in the world of soccer, and also just generally in sports. So to start, I want to ask more generally, what is the difference between a role model and a mentor in your experiences? Is there a difference? Do mentors and role models have different forms of influence on an athlete's development? What do you think?
I can go. I think there is a little bit of a difference. I think they can go hand in hand at times, but for me, I really think of a mentor as someone that I have a good personal connection with. So someone I'm close with and talk to a lot, whereas a role model might be someone that I don't necessarily know personally, but I look up to and want to mirror in a lot of ways. So for me, that's like the big difference that I've noticed.
Yeah, I see that
Yeah, I think
distinction.
I think a role model is someone you're trying to chase to become, maybe. So if that's like for me, a professional footballer that's playing higher than me and watching tape and learning not only the qualities on the field, but qualities off the field. And then I think a mentor is someone that you learn from, someone that you're a little bit closer to that you can talk with and interact with and also learn through things that way.
Yeah, I think that's great. Thanks for making that distinction because we'll definitely toggle between the two for our discussion today. But I wanted to hear from you exactly what you saw as the difference, and it sounds like you're both pretty much on the same page. So moving into our next question, let's just dive right into it. Were there specific individuals who served as mentors or role models during your soccer journey? Maybe let's start with role models because I feel like that is kind of the first experience of that influence at a young age. So for both of you, who was your first role model, or at least most meaningful role model during your soccer journey?
For me, I think my first big role model was Mia Hamm. I was a big fan of Mia Hamm when I was little. Yeah. Basic answer, I know.
Yeah. No, not at all. I think it's timeless.
Yeah. But I just remember like when I was little, anytime in school we'd have to do like a school project or something. Like I always wanted to do it on Mia Hamm and just talk about her and learn about her. So she was definitely a big role model in my life. And then I think as I got older, I was a big fan of the Portland Thorns, obviously growing up in Portland and getting to see professionals like right in my neighborhood was really cool. So I think I became a big fan of a lot of those girls, which I was thankful for.
Yeah, that's solid. It's nice to have those female role models, which we'll touch on more here in a few minutes. But before we move on to Kaelon, Sophia, I'm curious if Mia Hamm or the Portland women's soccer players had any specific lessons that stuck with you or themes that stuck with you from a young age and to your early development years.
Yeah, I think a big one was just like work ethic. Obviously, both of them were very distinctive, successful soccer players. And I think I was just able to see how much like work and desire and passion that took. So kind of seeing that and learning that like that was what I needed to get to that level and be on that stage was something that I think I definitely learned a lot from and helped me get to where I am today.
I love it. I love it. It's like their humanity. That's great. Kaelon, what about you?
Yeah, mine's also a staple player for the U.S. national team. So mine's Clint Dempsey. I
Okay.
think like there's a pair, Clint Dempsey and Landon Donovan, but more Clint. I think they both changed the way soccer was looked at for the United States. Clint tried his luck over in Europe as well. So after I was out of college, I tried my luck over in Europe. So just having a role model or someone to look up to like Clint, I think was really important for my growth and my development as well.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask you the same question, Kaelon. Were there any specific lessons or themes that he imparted on you or that made a significant impact on you as a young player?
Um, I think like he went to college Same with me. Like he didn't just go straight from youth to the pros. So I think going that route and seeing how much he did for the sport of soccer with the men's national team, and then also what he did in Europe was really cool to see because not many guys come from college and go to pros and do big things like he does. So I think that was kind of a cool little piece that I looked up to.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Now we're going to switch to mentors. Can you identify a key mentor you had in your journeys? It doesn't have to just be youth, it could be high school, college as well. But do you have any specific mentors that stand out to be especially meaningful to you or especially helpful to you in your careers?
I was lucky. I had a ton of mentors. And I think like in the soccer world and outside the soccer world, I had a lot of mentors that impacted me on and off the field. But I think some of my biggest ones were my high school coach. I really liked my high school coach, and I don't think I would be here playing without him. And then I think I had a lot of mentors when I first got to college that, I mean, they weren't that much older than me. Some of them were 2, 3, 4 years older than me, but they definitely helped me a lot. And I think sometimes that can be kind of a scary environment to work into. And I think having like a good leader and a good mentor in college is super helpful. My team had like we had like big sister roles, so we got split into like groups of 3, 4 people where you kind of had a big sister. So it was a pretty natural mentor role that everyone was given, but it definitely helped me a lot in just being comfortable playing and seeing people who were already established and knew what to do, knew the ropes, and kind of helped me out.
That's really solid because I was going to ask, but you sort of answered my question. How do mentors appear in the world of soccer? Do they happen naturally? And in some cases they do, but it sounds like in some university settings, it can be neat to have the big sister, the big brother connection, just to have them built in case they aren't developing naturally. So I appreciate
Yeah.
that. Go Gonzaga, right? We got to give them a little shout out. Yeah. Kaylin, what about you?
I would I would say my high school coach. I think I was in an interesting spot. I grew a little bit late. I grew into my body. I was a tall, lanky guy. Didn't really have a lot of coordination in high school. So once that coordination started to come, he started to give me some confidence and belief in myself that I could play at a higher level and play in college. So I think he was one. I also had a club coach that helped me get to the next level and go play Division I soccer, and he kind of gave me that confidence as well. But more importantly, I think I've had players as well, just teammates that have been mentors for me. When I went out to Iceland, not speaking the language, not really knowing the culture, a couple of the older guys kind of took me under their wing and showed me around the city and made me feel comfortable, which was really cool. And then also, coming back to America and playing at Tucson, there was a few older guys that also took me under their wing and showed me around the city, made me feel welcome. So I think it's important to have mentors that are older than you, like coaches, but also guys that you're around all the time, like players that you can kind of look up to and bounce questions off and just make you feel a little bit more welcome, a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, that's a great insight. I do agree. I think that like peer-to-peer mentorship can sometimes be even more meaningful just because you're
Yep.
sort of in the weeds together. No, I think that's really insightful, Caitlin. Now, what types of qualities do you would you seek out in a potential mentor? Which I know it happens naturally. It's not always something you're seeking out, but can you identify any specific qualities or attributes that you consider to be essential for someone who you do look up to as a mentor in your life?
Yeah, I think for me, often like a lot of the mentors I found myself with were just like really good leaders. They had good like leadership qualities. They were well respected on the team or in their respected fields. Obviously someone who's nice and approachable, someone you
Mhm.
can talk to a lot and that you trust and you can kind of build a good, safe relationship with. I think for me, those were the strongest attributes.
Yeah.
I think years of experience would be one for me, and it doesn't have to be age per se. For example, like when I went to Iceland, it was my first year as a pro, but there were younger guys that this was their third or fourth season. So just because they were younger than me, I think it's really important that you don't give them too much stick for being older, or you don't write them off because they're younger and they don't know as much as you. So I think years of experience is really important. And also kind of like Sophia said, like just leadership, being a good person, being a good teammate. It really sticks out when you're a bad person. So yeah, being good teammates, number one for me.
Yeah, good teammate. I love that. I was gonna ask, I know being a leader seems obvious, but to those who maybe it's not obvious to, what is a good leader? What is a good, just natural leader?
I think for me, like just someone who's respected by everyone. Like you can kind of tell like who has earned that respect and who people look to. Like it's not always necessarily the one yelling at everyone or giving direction, but it's just the people that you'll see the other girls turn to
Yeah.
when it's needed.
Yeah, leading by example. I think when no one's watching, that those kind of things, either on the field or off the field, is super important. Leading by example.
Yeah, I think that's solid. Can either of you recall a moment when you did receive a really solid piece of advice from a mentor, that kind of stayed with you throughout your soccer career? Or maybe even less than that, like a moment when you really leaned on that mentor and they really delivered for you? And yeah, can you explain what the situation was and how they helped guide you through that?
Yeah. When I was a freshman in college, I remember I wasn't playing a lot, and that was kind of hard for me, especially when you come out of like that club high school environment, like everybody's really good, and then you get to college and you're surrounded by people who are good, and you're a freshman and you're at the bottom of the totem pole and you don't really know what you're doing. And I remember there was a senior who actually had just torn her ACL. So she was coming back from a torn ACL and she stayed for her 5th year. So she was there when I was a sophomore too. And I remember just like being frustrated and not playing a lot. And she kind of took me under her wing and we just like worked extra hard. And she was trying to come back from an injury. She was a really good player. She started and played like my whole freshman year. And then obviously she had that injury. So she was trying to battle back into like a starting role. And I just remember staying after, coming early, like working really hard with her. And I remember she just would honestly say, like, it's not going to be easy, but you just got to work your hardest and it'll come, and be patient and kind of use that. So I think for me, that always stuck with me, that it was never going to be easy. You have to work really hard to get to where you want to be. But I was thankful for her and she definitely helped me get here.
Yeah, she sounds awesome. I'm sure she was at home watching you at the World Cup, like, that was all me. I'm just kidding. I'm
Oh,
just
I
joking.
hope so.
No, no, no. That's so awesome. That's really cool to have those older connections because, again, it's like so important to have, even just by just a few years. The difference between being 18 years old and 21, 22 years old is actually quite a difference. So having
Yeah.
that leadership and like someone there to walk alongside of you is vital. It's crucial.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think for me it was high school. My freshman year, I barely made the freshman team. I was the last pick to get on the roster. Throughout the whole year, I was the last person to go in. I didn't really quite play much, so my freshman year was kind of a turning point of where I didn't know if I wanted to keep playing soccer or not.
Mhm.
And I really leaned on the varsity high school coach at the time. We had a couple conversations, and I was like, "Listen, I don't think this is for me. I don't like it." He said, "Well, give it one more year. All the guys really like you. All the guys really enjoy you. You train hard. You're a good person to be around the locker room." So I made JV my sophomore year, played a little bit more and got a little bit more confidence. I started liking soccer, I guess, a little bit more because obviously if you're playing more, you're having more fun. And then junior and senior year is kind of when I really took off, grew in my body, became super confident. So I think in those moments of, not feeling like I was the best player or lack of confidence, I think I really leaned on my coach to help me kind of get through it. And he was really insightful and really helpful in that development and growth.
Yeah, that's huge. That's really
Yeah.
huge. Now, for players who are watching, maybe younger players and who are listening, and they're like, how do I find a mentor? How do I like find a role model? I know we've established those kind of are two different things, where your mentor is someone who's maybe more in your immediate contact, is a little bit more of a direct relationship, whereas a role model is somebody who is a little bit, it's more indirect, out of your circle. So maybe Sophia, could you give an idea for how a young player could seek out a mentor? And then Kaelon, maybe you could give an idea for how a young player could find a role model that they connect with. So whoever wants to start, but mentor, how do we seek out a mentor? How do you seek out a role model?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I think for mentors, it's a little hard because it's honestly, it's a relationship that you want to feel comfortable and close to, and someone that you trust, which can be challenging. Like, you probably don't just want to randomly message somebody on Instagram and try to build that. But honestly, I would say, especially like for like women's sports, like we want to be as helpful and as supportive and help other young athletes find opportunities we have, especially for, I mean, women's soccer has grown a lot, and like we've seen that in the World Cup this past summer. But I think a lot of women athletes are really approachable and would love to help you in any way that we can and develop a relationship. I know I've gotten like a lot of support, and I've tried to answer everybody that's reached out to me, and I'm happy to talk with anyone and help anyone. So I think a lot of people would feel similar to the way I do. So I know it can be awkward, but just reach out and we'd love to help.
That's awesome advice. I totally second that. Cold email, message, do whatever you have to do. But yeah, to shoot your shot, you know?
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, Kaelon, how do young players try to seek out a role model or find that like connection to someone in the game?
Yeah. I would say start with, you know, finding one of your favorite teams, whether it's in the EPL or La Liga or MLS or anywhere, and just find players that do really good things in the community, are really good, you know, you hear through social media or internet articles, really good teammates. Start there, and then maybe watching some videos of how they play. That's kind of one way that I started. Again, going back to Clint Dempsey, and what, you know, with what he did with the U.S. men's national team and going from college and then going abroad. That's kind of how I started. But you don't have to have one. You can have, you know, two or three, but yeah, that would be what I would think.
Love it. Love it. Finding that connection. Now I'm
Yeah.
gonna flip the script a little bit. So we've been talking about your guys' experience with mentors, role models. Now I want to talk about, as two professionals, how you now have the responsibility to be mentors or be role models for younger players. So as accomplished professional athletes, do you have you had any experiences where you've served as a role model knowingly or a mentor of some sort throughout your careers?
I think some moments for me was when we would do like college ID camps. Because I remember going to college ID camps and being like, oh my gosh, these girls are like the coolest like, people ever. Want to be that. And I thought they were like so much older than me. And
They
then
feel so
I
much older, don't they,
became
when you're
one of
younger?
yeah. No, it's crazy. I
Yeah.
became one of them, and I was like, I'm not that special. I don't know why. I love them so much. But I think being able to like work ID camps was really awesome and something that I loved, and kind of allowed me to take on like a little bit of a mentorship role in some of the girls, especially the way we did them at Gonzaga. Like we would kind of have, each player would have like their own team of like 14 girls, and we kind of got to stay with them the whole week or the weekend. So I got to know the girls pretty well and kind of got to hear about like their dreams and what they wanted, and it was really cool. And I feel like I got to know some of them pretty well, which was nice. So I would say that's probably the closest thing I've had to a mentorship. And then after playing in the World Cup, I got some like amazing support from a lot of young athletes and young players, and especially girls in the US that have like Argentine parents like me. I got a lot of really sweet messages about how they wanted to do exactly what I've done. So that was really special and something I'm grateful for.
That's incredible. And I'm going to touch on that right after this. So put a pin in that. Hold on to that. Kaylin,
Yeah,
what about you?
it's hard to top being a World Cup mentor.
Yeah.
Trying to
Oh,
think.
sorry.
No, I think I think the older you get, the more experience. I think it's just important that you give back, whether I don't know, whether that's doing like camps in the community or just getting out and helping like youth clubs. Like for me, I this past spring I took one of the high school boys teams, the top high school boys team at Lexington Sporting Club, and I was their head coach. So I think in a way that was kind of like being a mentor to young guys that are on the cusp of either joining the first team or maybe in a practice or two here and there and seeing what the level is and seeing what it takes, or going play Division 1, 2, or 3 soccer. So I think that's the closest I've come to really settling in and saying like, hey, here's a group of 15 to 20 guys. I've only got them for about 4 to 5 months. Let's make them the best possible humans as possible. Let's get them closer as a team, and really enjoy it. So I think that's the closest I've come.
Yeah. Well, I imagine that both of you have had great impacts, some that you know about directly and some that you have no idea. Just kids who are watching or see you now, especially with social media and things. So yeah, you're always being watched. I'm just kidding. But I think that it is really important. And we do know that role models and mentors have a big impact on our decisions and can subconsciously guide us, like you mentioned, both of you when you were younger with your specific role models. But with Sophia, this question is specifically directed to you as a woman soccer player. There was some research that I read that was done a couple years ago in 2020 by the Women's Sports Federation based in the US. And they found that something like 65% of girls didn't know of any role models in their chosen sport, but they could name a male one pretty quickly. So they had a hard time coming up with a list of female role models, but knew of the male ones. And it reminded me of this phrase I heard once that was like, you can't be what you can't see. And I think you pointed that out with having Argentinian parents and competing in the World Cup. And you sort of awakened something in young women who didn't realize that it was a possible path for them. Now, do you think there's a way that the soccer community can sort of step up or help young female players get exposed to more mentors or role models? And sort of like, what would that look like? Is it something that coaches can do, or is it something that players can do? Like, how can we step up to help young players find those female role models?
Yeah, I think it's really important. Obviously, like you said, being able to see somebody kind of living out a dream, like you don't even realize it's a dream until you see someone else do it.
Yeah.
But I think honestly, for me, after kind of playing in Argentina and seeing the soccer community and culture that is there, like I've realized how much support we do get in the US, especially for women.
Yeah.
And I'd be interested to see like how that statistic has changed, because I think women's sports has grown so much just in the past like 3 years,
Yeah.
which is really exciting because I think it's just the start and it's only gonna continue to grow. But I think the biggest thing is just supporting women athletes, supporting tournaments, watching. I think that only grows more opportunities for future generations of players, which is really important. Just being able to play from a young age and find a neighborhood team that you can support with pro athletes that are living the same dream you want to live. I think it's super important. So whether you're watching a game on YouTube or it's being streamed on ESPN for the first time, like being a supporter of that, I think is huge. Whether you're a female athlete or not, I think everyone can help the women's game grow.
Oh, that I agree. We have no excuses now. We're completely hyper connected. We can tune in
Yes.
from anywhere. So I agree. Support, support, support. I think that's great. All right, now last couple of questions here. I see mentorship and role modeling. I'm sure in your experience you recognize this that they can extend beyond just your soccer careers. So I'm curious if you have any lessons that you've learned from mentors or role models that have helped you beyond the soccer field, beyond your athletic pursuits, and have actually helped you grow as an individual.
I think especially in like the high school and college environment, a lot of my mentors made it very clear that soccer was important, but it's not the end all be all. Obviously, my college coach made school a really big priority in a lot of our lives, which I think is super valuable. And then just other lessons, like I'll never forget these, like take the stairs. That was a big race for us, and I'm sure other teams as well, but it kind of just helps remind you to go the extra mile, whether it's on the field or off the field. That kind of applies to your whole life. And then he was really big on all of us sitting in the front row. So at school and all our classes, we would always have to be in the front row, which was not super fun at times, but it definitely made us better students. It went a long way. So I think also just all the lessons you learn on the field can all be applied off the field, whether it's hard work. Obviously, you should work hard in everything you do, not just on the soccer field. Being a good teammate, being a good family member, being a good friend, being a good coworker is also super important. So I think I just try to take everything that I've learned on the field and also try to apply it off the field and vice versa.
Yeah, that's solid. I really love taking the stairs. I think that's a really cool, like, subconscious thing. Sitting front row, I feel like if you would have found me in like my statistics class, I probably wasn't in the front row, but that's all right. I respect it.
Yeah, I tended to go to the back in a few of my classes as well.
Yeah.
There was a few that I knew teachers were coming around, so I'd sit in the front. But if I needed a nap, I'd just go right to the back.
Yeah. All right, Kaelon, what about you?
For me, I would say my dad always told me throughout high school, college, and even now is whatever you do, like don't put all your eggs in one basket. I think it's really important to, I love soccer. I've played since I was 4. This game has given me so many memories, so many, happy times, so many sad times, so many whatever it is. But in the end, like there's going to be a day where the game doesn't love you back and you have to retire. So finding that thing that you are interested in and that you want to go into after soccer's over or after whatever you're doing at this time is over is super important at building that. So going back to education, like Sophia said, getting your undergraduate or going to college or getting a master's while you're playing or doing something on the side. So that way when the sport or the job ends, you kind of have something else to move on to. I think not having all of your eggs in one basket is a good way to phrase that.
Yeah. And honestly, you guys walk the walk because you both work. So I feel like this is a great, you guys are talking to 2 professional players who also work at Beyond Pulse. So I think, yeah, you guys definitely are leading by example in that way.
Yep.
Now, last question here. I'm curious what advice you would give to a younger generation of soccer players, who were, trying to pursue their soccer dreams, whether that be making the high school varsity team or going pro or getting a scholarship. It could be really across the board what the dream looks like. But what advice would you give them if you could only give them one piece? What would you say?
All right.
I know that's tough. It doesn't have to be like the
for me,
perfect. Yeah. There you go ahead, Sophia.
Okay. I think I would say like dream big. Obviously, I think I had a lot of dreams and goals, but I would have never imagined being able to play in a World Cup or score a goal in a World Cup. And I think I didn't really realize how much I could actually achieve until I got a lot older and kind of kept setting the bar higher for myself. So I think if I could have gone back and changed anything, I would have wanted to dream really big from the start and kind of not let anything knock me down. Obviously, it's a long path. Like I went through spurts where I didn't play at all. And like Kaelon said, you might not always start on the varsity team, but I mean, it's a long road and you can definitely get there. So I think dream big.
Yeah, I love that. I think there's like something kind of magical about being like positively delusional sometimes. But
Yeah.
the way you put it was much more eloquent. But I think that there's something to that. Yeah. What about you,
I
Kaylin?
don't I don't know. I would say like don't give up, don't quit would be my motto. I've had so many doors slammed in my face that I've had to just kind of push through. I mean, if you look at, what I talked about today, like freshman year, I could have just quit and I wouldn't be here with you guys right now. I wouldn't be a 4 or 5 year pro. I could have, quit after college. I was on 8 trials. I finally signed my pro contract after my ninth trial. So you don't know how close you are. If you just keep going, like there is light at the end of the tunnel. Just believe in yourself and have that confidence, and you will achieve what you want to achieve.
Yeah, that's solid. You guys always come with the best wisdom, the best sound bites. So thank you so much. That is all we have for today. That wraps our episode 5 on role models and mentors and their profound impact on the athlete's experience and development. So we're tuning out of here, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.